Greetings, good people. Happy Friday or whatever day you're watching this. If you're in the future, hello. Um, Thank you for being here. I'm going to check my notes because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything because your girl will go off on a tangent and forget why I was even here, and we'll be talking about all kinds of things. So let me stay focused. But this video is about, as you can see in the title, tips for Black women who are thriving or want to thrive after a health crisis. As we know, heart disease, fibroids, some cancers, diabetes, so many of these chronic and potentially fatal health conditions impact Black people and specifically Black women far more than any other group. And so a lot of us, including myself, have experienced these things and have to find a way to navigate life after that. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Barbara Pamplin. I'm an author and a speaker. And my purpose is really to help Black women remember who the F we are and how to love ourselves. Because at the root of it, at the foundation of all the healing and the surviving and the thriving, that's really it. Remembering who we are and remembering how to truly love ourselves, because everything around us, society, the world, the programming, a lot of things basically tell us that we're not worthy of love. And so we have to combat that by loving ourselves so deeply that it kind of pushes all of the rest of the nonsense away. So if that's your jam, if that speaks to your soul, please hit subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification bell so that the next time I post a video or go live, you'll get notifications. Okay? So again, I stand for Black women who are not only surviving, but thriving after a health crisis. Um, I have a unique perspective. Back in 2017, my life was really changed by 50 days. 50 days, I'll say the numbers 53 and 3. 50 days in intensive care. I had 3 open heart surgeries during that time, and I actually died, flatlined 3 times during that, and had to be resuscitated and brought back. And each time it took a little bit of time for me to actually come back. And so I had an aortic dissection, which is 99% fatal. And after you go through something like that, it's not just a, oh, yeah, you're good, and just keep moving. And actually, in fact, 5 years later, almost exactly 5 years later, um, in the fall of 2022, just a few months ago, I found, well, I didn't find, the doctors found a pretty large rare tumor on my adrenal gland, which resulted in another surgery. So I had to have that removed along with my kidney. And it was the operation and the surgery itself was straightforward. Because we were aware, we were able to prepare for it. I had a lot of medications leading up to it. But it was removing an organ, and it turns out that tumor wasn't, that tumor had been there for a while and was causing a lot of havoc and probably contributed to the aortic dissection. And kind of describing and explaining aortic dissection, I'll have to get into a bit of anatomy. If you want me to explain more about that, a lot of people mistake it for a heart attack, meaning when I explain it to people, they just know it's something to do with heart. But there's a full range, a lot of things that can happen when you have a lot of different risk factors or genetic factors. So if you want me to make a video to talk a little bit more about aortic dissection and some of the things that I've experienced, which are pretty rare, I'd be happy to do that. Just feel free to leave it in the comments. But having experienced that, and other women who have experienced whatever traumas that you have, people will listen to my story and say, oh my God, I didn't go through anything like that. But we're not here to compare traumas. We're not here to one up, well, my trauma was better than yours or harder than yours. Anything that we go through as people, as women, as Black women, is our own trauma, our own hurdle that we have to get over, our own journey. And really, it's a catalyst for shifting and changing that journey. It's how I look at mine. And so any of us that have gone through things like that have to evolve, that have to heal and kind of get through that, there's a part of you and I'm speaking for myself, and I know because I've spoken to other women that we kind of go through this same superwoman complex where you just try to really quickly get over it. In fact, you probably were ignoring some signs along the way of changes that you needed to make, and health that you needed to prioritize. But um, there's this idea of that people get really uncomfortable when they know that you've been through a thing and they just want you to get better really quickly, get back to your old self really quickly, get back on the horse and, kind of push through. And, we will internalize that. And I can say that I've internalized that to the point where I was even pushing myself to just try to get back to where I was, get back to who I was, which really was overworking, which was giving too much, which was doing the most. Man, a lot of you folks that know me now, you think, oh, wow, you really do the most. Like, no, I used to really, really do the most. And so with that, I think one of the most important critical factors, the most, and I'm going to make more videos with more tips because there's a lot of things that I've had to do over the last few years to thrive, to kind of stabilize myself, and it's an ongoing process. But there's one thing that is critical and foundational to it all that I hate to even use the word Trump, but it trumps it all. um, and that's rest. People, we get pressure from external, meaning, whether it's our family, our jobs, um, and ourselves to push through, to keep working, to, um, again, to, as I was saying, to go back to that former self that you were. But that's not how we're going to navigate. That's not how you're going to heal. Rest, and there's all forms of rest, but I'm just going to talk in this video just generally about rest and prioritizing that rest. What that does for your body, I mean, the body is incredibly intelligent and resilient. I'm a testimony to that because the things that I've experienced, the 3 open heart surgeries, um, the kidney surgery, the adrenal gland surgery, all of these things, I've had doctors that will tell me, what you experienced was, even though it was necessary to save your life, it was an assault on the body. So just think about that. If you have to have any type of surgery, anything where there is something being taken, removed, repaired, that is a major trauma to your body itself. And that trauma is held within your body. And the only way to allow your body to recuperate from that trauma, heal that trauma, and by that trauma, I'm talking about the surgery or whatever the procedure was. I guarantee you there was already damage that was done that led up to the need to have the surgery, to have the intervention. So the body is also trying to heal that. So now all of a sudden it has these really two big competing things that it's trying to do. Meanwhile, you are trying to go back to being the person you were, taking care of everybody, doing all the things, not getting enough sleep, not eating enough, just basically not resting, not prioritizing your rest and well being. And the best thing that you can do is to allow your body to rest so that it can activate its intelligence to say, all right, we got to reroute some things. We have to give more energy to these, to other parts of the internal body in order to repair. And it's a difficult thing to understand, and it's a difficult thing to navigate because, again, emotionally and how we've been programmed as Black women is just to keep going and to keep making it happen. Um, but again, and rest is the biggest gift that you can give yourself. And like I said, there's about 40 plus more things that I am going to share with you over the course of the next few weeks or months that really were critical to me, um, stabilizing. And I will say it's not a oh, I've done this, check the box. Okay, now I can move to the next thing. I have to constantly remember that I have to rest. And when I don't remember, my body makes sure it reminds me and it puts me on my ass as quickly as it can. And so, if you can proactively prioritize yourself, proactively build in time to rest, whether it's during the day, just taking a few minutes, um, to just center yourself. Uh, I believe in naps. that's a whole other topic we can go deep into, but there's many strategies around rest, and some of them can just be micro moments. I've written a book that talks about some of my experiences, at least with the first part of that, with the aortic dissection. There's another book coming that talks about my journey after that. But the book that I have now that's been in market, I talk about this experience that I had with the aortic dissection and the three surgeries, but also some of the tools and techniques that I had to use to get myself well, and to get myself functioning again. And one of those that I talk about is called micro moments. And it's really the idea, and I give some specific things to do in the book, but just the whole concept of micro moments is really tapping into the idea of rest. And taking the idea of rest is not some huge, you have to wait until you have to do a vacation or wait until you can do this huge thing for yourself, but taking moments, 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, multiple times throughout the day, to give yourself a moment to ground, to equalize, to come into yourself. Um, and so this idea of rest is what's going to be really critical for your body to tap into itself, to heal itself, and to get you not back where you were, because we're moving forward. If you've experienced these things, your body is now different. And so you have to be able to accept that, which is a whole other thing. Let me just check my notes to make sure I'm on path, because again, I will go off on a tangent. Um, and I'll tell you some of the things your family and people around you, some will understand, especially if they saw you and were there with you as you struggled, as were fighting for your life or whatever part of it. Some people will understand. Some people will not. They'll just say, "Oh yeah, health is wealth," and just keep it pushing, or tell you, "Oh, I'm glad you're on the other side of that." But internally, you're like, I don't feel the same. Am I on the other side of it? And so it's really, you have to understand that people are uncomfortable with illness. You probably are uncomfortable with illness. In fact, you're probably scared. You're probably afraid of what could happen, what might happen, what's going to happen to the people you love if anything were to happen to you. So you have to deal with all of those things, which again are drains on your energy. So even more reason why you need rest. But again, the pressure to just keep going will come from external, which you have to create boundaries around that. But the most difficult one to deal with is the pressure that comes from internal, that comes from the programming that we have to be strong, we have to be resilient, we have to push through. Yes, we're resilient. Yes, we're strong. We've had to deal with things, we've had to push through things and survive things. And by we, I mean Black women and generations of Black women. Our ancestral mothers have had to endure, endure, endure. And we don't have to endure anymore. We can take the time to rest. We are owed decades of rest, centuries of rest, based on generationally what we've experienced. So I think that's really important. And I just want to make sure that you have that understanding, is that allow your body to heal. Allow yourself to rest mentally, physically, and spiritually. You've been through a lot. And you have to give yourself that grace. You can't wait for someone else to give it to you. You have to give it to yourself. So as I mentioned, in the aftermath of that trauma that I experienced, I wrote a book. And as part of my healing process, as I was resting or struggling to rest because it just was not in my nature, I got some stories I could tell y'all. Man. But I wrote a book. It's called From Fat, Black, and Unlovable to Beautiful, Powerful Love. And it's really about, that title is sometimes jarring for people, but it's about these toxic beliefs that we as women, as Black women, have held in our hearts, in our bodies, that didn't even just start with us. They are generational. They come through, and I keep doing like this because I'm looking at, I consider it like your bloodline of ancestral mothers, your mother, your mother's mother, your mother's mother's mothers, as far back as 7 or more generations, and the pain and trauma that they've all experienced gets passed down genetically, scientifically proven epigenetics. When there's trauma experienced over an extended amount of time, that alters your DNA, and that trauma gets passed through the bloodline. And so this idea of of Fat, Black, and Unlovable to Beautiful, Powerful Love is really about transforming toxic thoughts and beliefs that you've had about yourself. And it could be anything, not the same as what I've had, but it could be anything, and transforming that into the truth of who you are, the truth of your being, the truth of why you were created. Um, and so I write about my experience and I talk about those behaviors and those toxic beliefs, but I also talk about some of the solutions. I talk about some of the things that I've done and tried and experienced and kind of found my way through, just like this idea of rest. I found my way, people would say it, but I had to really experience it to see, oh, there's a huge difference when I actually allow myself to rest. And that means I have to restructure my life in a different way. And it took a few years post recovery for me to actually get that message. And so I wanted to share that with you, just like in the book, things that I've learned, like micro moments that I wanted to share so that other women, other Black women, don't have to go through the trauma that I went through to get the lesson. I'm leaving the pain and I'm getting the lesson, and I'm passing the lesson on to you, both in this video and in my book. And so I've been humbled by the reviews and the feedback that I've gotten from the book, and and mostly, and I would say actually probably 50-50, from Black women as well as white women of other ethnicities whose eyes were open because now they understand or have some clue about what we experience as Black women. And um, and it's not one where we have to pay the emotional tax and I will go and have the conversation. I'll direct people, like, just go read the book. If you want to understand Black women and what we struggle with in terms of our mental and physical health generationally, I got a book. You can just read my book. I'm not having a conversation. Unless they are open and ready to actually get into the details of the conversation versus just sit there and be educated. But again, I digress. So for you, I would be honored to support you on your journey. So again, you can subscribe to this channel. You can also purchase my book. And where can you buy the book? Well, it's available everywhere books are sold. I actually recorded an audiobook as well. So if that's more of how you like to consume information, a lot of us are on the go. Hopefully you're going for walks or hitting a treadmill or just, going out in nature, and maybe you have your iPod or earbuds in and you want to listen to things. And so sharing my, oh, I don't think that link went through well. So sharing my audiobook and listening to my audiobook can be helpful, especially when we get to some of the parts of the book where I offer some guided meditations and um, some other visualizations and things that you can use to kind of equalize yourself. So I'm going to put the links in the comments so you'll be able to see those. So I put in a link for both Amazon as well as my website, because you can go directly to my website to get the book or the audiobook, and also some swag if you like to really affirm yourself that Black women are dope AF. And, I'm trying to censor myself a little bit for YouTube. Eventually, I'm not going to, because that's just how I speak. But yeah, so the book is there, and then there's some swag, and you can sign up to actually join when you visit my website. Sign up to actually join my email list, and reach out if you want. Because the other thing that I do in addition to this book and this channel, in order to support other Black women on their healing journey, is I do speaking engagements. So if there's events, retreats, conferences where we really want to talk and go into more detail about some of these concepts, I love to come and share what I can and to help all of us to heal and to have lives where we can not only survive, but actually thrive. Um, and again, the book is available anywhere, even if you want to, if you purchase through iTunes, that is another place where you can get it. So, again, just to recap, the number one most important foundational thing that you can do for yourself, for your body, for your healing journey is rest. Rest in whatever way that means for you, but actually for real rest. Sometimes it means sleep. Sometimes it means just putting your feet up with a charcuterie board, whatever that means. But rest, prioritizing your day, your week, your year around how do you actually rest. Sometimes I have to plan my week in a way where I'm like, okay, I'm doing something really hard on this day. I know I need the whole next day to rest. I've had to come to that realization. And again, it took years, but that's a critical part of it. Um, and if we don't, we end up back in the hospital. We end up back in difficult health situations. Did that in March of 2019. So I went through all of this aortic dissection and surgery in 2017. Um, by 2019, because I wasn't resting, because I wasn't prioritizing my health, because I wasn't prioritizing my own well-being and ease, March 2019, right after I published the book, actually, I was back in the hospital for 3 days. And so, again, take the lessons that I'm sharing that I had to get the hard way and rest. Take your time, prioritize yourself, restructure the things in the life around you so that you can rest. Love and lights. I'll see you soon.